David had spent the last 5 years of his life searching for his daughter. Lily, she had been only 12 years old when she vanished, taken by forces beyond his understanding. Her disappearance had shattered him, but the grief had turned into something worse, an endless search, filled with uncertainty and unanswered questions. The world had moved on. Lily's case became one of many in the pile of unsolved mysteries. And David's family and friends had eventually stopped asking about her. They had no answers. No one knew where she had gone, and the government had no leads. They said it was likely an alien abduction, but they couldn't prove it. They had no evidence. To them, it was just another story, a tragedy to forget. But David couldn't forget. How could he? Lily had been his world, his everything. She was his bright, curious daughter who loved the stars. They had spent nights together, gazing up at the night sky, imagining what was beyond it. She would always ask him what the future held, and he promised her that they would see it together. But now, that future was empty. Every night David would sit by the window, staring out at the stars, hoping against hope that one day Lily would return. The memories of her laugh, her smile, and her questions about the universe never left his mind. The world around him seemed to be moving on, but David felt stuck in the past. Every moment without her was unbearable. Then one night, everything changed. It started as a rumble in the distance. David wasn't sure at first if he had imagined it, but the ground beneath his feet trembled. The noise grew louder, and he rushed outside to see what was happening. As he stepped onto the porch, the night sky was illuminated by a brilliant light, brighter than any star he had ever seen. His heart raced as the light grew closer. A ship, a massive, sleek vessel, descended from the sky, its smooth surface glinting in the light of the full moon. David stood frozen, his heart pounding in his chest. His first thought was that it was a dream, that this could not be real. But as the ship touched down softly on the ground in front of him, the reality of the situation hit him like a wave. The ship's hatch opened slowly, and a figure stepped out. David's breath caught in his throat as he saw her. She was an alien, tall, regal, with skin that shimmered like the night sky. Her eyes were deep and full of wisdom, yet there was something soft and kind about her. She wore a flowing gown made of shimmering fabric that moved like it was alive. She was beautiful, but there was a sadness about her, as though she, too, had seen too much loss. "David," she said, her voice calm and melodic. "I am Arya, princess of the Zerothian people." David didn't know what to say. I just stared at her, confused and unsure. What was happening? Why was she here? "I have come for a very important reason," Arya continued. "It is about your daughter, Lily." David's heart skipped a beat. His eyes widened. "Lily?" he whispered. "You know where she is?" "Yes," Arya nodded. "But it is a long story, a story that you must understand if you are to see your daughter again." David stepped closer, his mind racing. Where is she? What happened? To her, Arya sighed deeply, as if the words she was about to speak were painful. "Lily was taken by the Agthor, an ancient enemy of my people. They sought to use her for their own purposes, but I stopped them. I saved her from their clutches. For years I have searched for her, trying to protect her from a fate worse than death." David felt a mixture of emotions, confusion, hope, anger. "Why didn't you bring her back? Where is she now?" Arya looked down, her eyes filled with regret. "Lily was hidden from the Agthor. She has been transformed, made into something ... different. She is not the girl you remember. Her body is human, but her mind and abilities are something else, something more powerful." David's stomach twisted.
"Ow! What do you mean? What's happened to my daughter?"
Arya hesitated before answering. "She is the key to stopping the Agthor. But to do that, she must fully embrace the powers that have been given to her, powers that come from my people." David felt a surge of emotions, fear, confusion, and an overwhelming desire to hold his daughter again. "I just want her back. I want my little girl." Arya's expression softened. "I understand, but your daughter has grown. She is no longer the child you knew. She is a warrior now, fighting a battle she never asked for. David stood there in silence, his mind racing. Could it be true? Could this alien princess really be telling the truth? His daughter, his sweet, innocent Lily, had been changed by these alien forces. And now they were telling him that she was the key to saving everything. But how could he accept this? How could he accept that his daughter was no longer the little girl he remembered? That she was part of a battle between alien worlds? As David looked at Arya, he realized something. He didn't care about the battles or the powers. He didn't care about the alien politics. All he cared about was finding his daughter and bringing her home. I don't care what she is now, David said, his voice firm. I just want to see my daughter. I want to bring her back. I don't care if she's a warrior or a princess. I want my little girl back. Arya nodded solemnly. I will help you find her. Dud. But you must be prepared for what you will face when you do. David clenched his fists. He didn't know what that would mean, but he would face it. For Lily. For the daughter he had never stopped loving. Where do we start? He asked. Arya smiled, a faint glimmer of hope in her eyes. We start by going to the stars. David stood with Arya, staring at the distant stars above. The bright light from the alien ship seemed to fade as the air around them settled. His mind was racing. He had so many questions, but no answers. He had always thought that someday, somehow, Lily might come back. But now the truth was more complicated than he could have ever imagined. I can't believe it, David whispered. You say she's alive, but she's not the same, is she? Arya sighed deeply, her gaze looking out toward the horizon. Lily is still your daughter, David, but she has changed. The Agther have used her in ways you cannot imagine. They have altered her mind and body to serve their cause. But I saved her, and I protected her. She is not completely lost. David felt a tightness in his chest. He could hear his own voice trembling as he spoke. I don't care what she's become. I just want her back. I want her to be safe. Arya turned to him. Her alien eyes seemed to pierce right through him. I know, and I will help you. But you must understand something, David. Lily cannot return to Earth the way she was before. She has a mission, one that could change the fate of both our worlds. David didn't fully understand. He didn't want to. All he wanted was to hold his daughter again, to tell her he loved her. But the reality of the situation was hard to ignore. She wasn't the same Lily anymore, and he wasn't sure if he could accept that. Why didn't you just bring her back sooner? David asked, his voice filled with frustration. You've had all this time. Why now? Arya looked down, her expression sad, because I was waiting for her to be ready. Lily had to come to terms with the powers she now possesses. I couldn't return her to Earth until she had embraced who she truly is. David shook his head. I don't understand. You say she's changed, but does that mean she's not even human anymore? She is human, Arya replied softly, but she is also something more. Her human side is still there, but her alien abilities, her gifts are powerful. They are tied to the Zerothian people, to me. David felt a wave of disbelief wash over him. So ... she's part of your world now? A princess? A weapon? Arya's eyes darkened for a moment. No, she is neither a princess nor a weapon. She is a protector, guardian. Her abilities are meant to keep the Agther from destroying everything your world, mine, and countless others. She carries a responsibility that no one else can bear. But she is still Lily. She hasn't forgotten her roots, David. David took a deep breath, his mind struggling to grasp what Arya was saying. His daughter, his little girl, was now part of a galaxy he didn't understand. Had to admit that he didn't know how to feel. Anger, fear, hope, all of it mixed together inside him. I've waited so long to hear that she's alive, David said quietly. I don't care about the rest of it. I just want to see her again. You will, Arya said with a soft smile. But there is something you must know. The Agthor are not done with her. They will come for her, for both of you. You'll need to be prepared for what's to come. It won't be easy. David's heart sank. The Agther, the enemies of Arya's people, had been a mystery to him. But now, It seemed they were more dangerous than he had ever imagined. "I don't care about the danger," David said, his voice firm. "I've lost her once. I'm not going to lose her again." Arya nodded, her gaze serious. "Then we must go to her. She is on a distant world, one that no human has ever set foot on. It's a place hidden from most of the universe. It's a place that even the Ag through fear." David's stomach turned at the thought of traveling to an unknown world. He didn't know what to expect, but the thought of seeing his daughter again gave him the strength to push forward. He had to do this for Lily. "How do we get there?" he asked. Arya stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder.
You will.
"Come with me. I will guide you to her. But once we reach her, you must understand Lily's life has been shaped by forces beyond her control. You may not recognize her, David. She may not even remember everything you want her to." David nodded, the weight of her words settling over him like a storm cloud. "I don't care. I'll love her no matter what." "Then let's go," Arya said. "Softly. We don't have much time. The Akther are already looking for her, and they will stop at nothing to reclaim what they think is theirs." David felt a sense of urgency rise within him. The journey ahead seemed impossible, but he wasn't going to let anything stop him from finding his daughter. The fear in his heart only fueled his determination. As they walked toward the ship, David's mind was racing. What would he find on the alien world? What kind of person had Lily become? Would she even want to return to Earth? Or had she become too much a part of the stars? These questions didn't matter now. All that mattered was finding her. For the first time in years, David felt a spark of hope. He was going to see his daughter again. He was going to fight for her, no matter what it took. As they stepped into the ship, the hatch closed behind them with a soft hiss. The ship rose into the sky, leaving Earth behind. David watched the planet shrink beneath him, a feeling of awe and terror mixing in his chest. This was real. There was no turning back now. In the distance, he could see the stars, and for the first time in years, felt like he had a chance to reach them. David sat in the ship, staring out at the vast expanse of space. It felt strange to be leaving Earth behind, yet it was the only way to find his daughter. Arya, the alien princess, was sitting quietly beside him, her eyes focused on the controls. The ship hummed softly as it glided through the stars, moving faster than anything David had ever imagined. He had never imagined traveling in a ship like this. The metal walls were sleek and smooth, the light dim and calming. The feeling of weightlessness was unsettling at first, but he tried to focus on the mission ahead. Finding Lily. That was all that mattered. "How long until we reach her?" David asked, his voice shaking slightly. He tried to sound calm, but inside his emotions were a whirlwind. "We'll arrive soon," Arya replied. "Lily is close, but you need to be ready for what you will see." David looked at her, his heart racing. "What do you mean?" Arya hesitated before answering. "She has changed, David. The powers she possesses are unlike anything you have ever seen. They are tied to her, and they are growing stronger every day." David felt a chill run down his spine. The last thing he wanted was for his daughter to become something he couldn't recognize. He wanted to hold her, to talk to her like they used to, but he feared that wouldn't be possible anymore. "Will she remember me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Arya nodded slowly. "She will. But remember, Lily is not the same. Child, you knew. She has seen things. She has experienced things that have changed her. You may find that she is different, even if she still loves you." David clenched his fists. He didn't care about the changes. He didn't care if she had powers or if she had become someone else. All he wanted was to see her again. As the hours passed, David tried to push aside his worries. He needed to focus. They were almost there. Soon, he would finally see Lily again, and he would do everything in his power to bring her home. The ship made a soft beeping sound, signaling that they were approaching their destination. Arya's hands moved quickly over the controls, guiding the ship toward a planet that David had never seen before. It was small, covered in lush forests and mountains that stretched high into the sky. It looked peaceful, but David knew better than to think everything was calm. As they descended toward the surface, David's heart pounded in his chest. He couldn't believe this was happening. He was about to see Lily again, but what would he find? Would she be the same? She still want to be with him? The ship landed softly and David stood, his legs a little unsteady. Arya opened the hatch, and a cool breeze washed over him as he stepped onto the alien world. The air smelled different, cleaner, fresher. The colors around him were more vibrant than anything he had ever seen on Earth. "This is where Lily has been," Arya said, gesturing toward the landscape. "She is close. We must move quickly." David followed Arya as she led the way through the thick trees. The ground was soft beneath his feet, and the sounds of strange creatures echoed in the distance. He felt like he was walking through a dream. Everything was so unfamiliar, yet it felt like he had no choice but to follow. After what seemed like hours, they reached a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a tall stone structure, ancient and covered in vines. David's breath caught in his throat. It looked like something out of an old myth, a place that had been forgotten by time. "This is where she is," Arya said quietly. "She has been waiting for you." David felt a mixture of excitement and fear. He stepped forward, his heart pounding louder with each step. As he reached the entrance of the stone structure, the door slid open, revealing a room filled with soft, glowing light. The air inside was warm, and the walls seemed to pulse with energy. And there, standing in the center of the room, was Lily. David froze. For a moment, he couldn't move. She looked so much like the little girl he remembered. But she was also different. Her eyes were deeper, filled with a wisdom that David couldn't understand. Her skin seemed to glow with a soft light, and her hair shimmered like it had been touched by the stars. "Lily?" David whispered, his voice shaking. The girl turned slowly, and her eyes met his. For a moment, there was no recognition in them. Then, slowly, her face softened, and a faint smile appeared. "Dad?" Lily's voice was barely a whisper, but it sent a flood of relief through David. "Is it really you?" David stepped forward, his hands trembling. "It's me, Lily. I've come for you. I've been looking for you all this time." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes as she took a hesitant step toward him. I don't know who I am anymore, Dad. I'm not the same person. I've changed." David reached out, pulling her into his arms. She felt different, stronger, yet fragile at the same time. He held her tightly, feeling the warmth of her body, the steady beat of her heart. "I don't care who you've become, Lily," David said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "You're still my daughter, and I'm never going to leave you again." Lily clung to him, her hands gripping his shirt tightly. "I don't know if I can come back, Dad. I don't know if I can be the person I used to be. I have powers now, things I can't control. I've done things I'm not proud of." David pulled back slightly, looking into her eyes. "It doesn't matter. I don't need you to be who you were before. I just need you to be you. The you I love." Lily's eyes softened, and she nodded slowly. "I'm scared, Dad. I don't know what's going to happen next." David smiled gently, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to be scared anymore. We'll figure this out together." For the first time in years, David felt like he had found the piece of his life that had been missing. His daughter was here. She was different. Yes, but she was still his Lily. And no matter what happened, he would stand by her side, ready to face whatever the future had in store. As they stood there, reunited, David knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. There were still dangers to face, enemies to fight, and obstacles to overcome. But for the first time, he felt hopeful. He had his daughter back, and together they would face whatever came next. The moment David and Lily reunited, an overwhelming sense of relief washed over him. But even as he held his daughter, the shadow of the unknown loomed over them. He could feel the tension in the air, the quiet hum of power, the weight of responsibility. That Lily now carried, she was no longer just his daughter. She had become something more. Something dangerous. Arya stepped forward, breaking the silence that had settled between father and daughter. "We do not have much time," she said, her voice serious. "The actor? No, she is here. They will stop at nothing to capture her." David looked at her, his eyes narrowing with confusion. "Who are these Agther? Why are they after my daughter?" Arya sighed and turned her gaze toward the distant horizon. The stars above twinkled brightly, yet something in her eyes spoke of ancient fear. The Akther are an ancient enemy of my people. They're ruthless, power-hungry beings who seek to control every world they can. They are relentless in their pursuit of power, and they see Lily as the key to their success. David's heart pounded. How? How can she be the key to their plans? She is a hybrid, Arya explained. A blend of human and Zorthian power. The Akther believe that by controlling her, they can harness her abilities to conquer the galaxy. They want to use her as a weapon, a tool for their own dominance. David's fists clenched at his sides. The thought of someone using his daughter like that filled him with rage. He couldn't let it happen. What can we do? How do we stop them? Arya's expression softened. We must protect her at all costs. The Akther have already begun sending their forces to this world. We need to leave before they find us. But even then, we will not be safe. They will track us, and they will not stop until they have her. Lily, who had been quietly listening, spoke up, her voice filled with uncertainty. I don't know if I can fight them. I don't know if I can control what I've become. David looked at her, his heart breaking. His daughter had already been through so much. The last thing he wanted was for her to face more danger, but he also knew there was no other choice. You don't have to do this alone, David said gently. We'll figure this out together. I'll help you, Lily. We're in this together. You don't have to fight them by yourself. Lily looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. But I don't know what's inside me. I don't know if I can control it. What if I hurt someone? You won't hurt anyone, David said firmly, walking over to her. We will find a way to control it. We will find a way to stop the Akther. Together, Arya watched the father and daughter, her expression softening. She knew the path ahead would be difficult, but she also knew that the bond between David and Lily was strong. It was the one thing that could give them the strength to face the challenges ahead. We must leave now, Arya said, breaking the moment. There is a ship nearby that can take us to safety. But we must hurry. The Akther will be here soon. David nodded, his resolve hardening. He wasn't going to let anything happen to his daughter. He had already lost so much, and he wasn't about to lose her again. The three of them made their way through the dense forest, moving quickly and silently. David's mind raced with questions. What kind of enemy were they facing? What had Lily become? And how could they possibly defeat a force like the Akther? As they reached the edge of the forest, a sleek, dark ship appeared in the distance. It was the kind of ship David had never seen before, its design unlike anything he had ever imagined. It looked alien, yet strangely familiar, as though it belonged to another time. Another world. Arya led them inside the ship, where the interior was dimly lit and filled with strange technology. The walls were made of smooth, metallic surfaces, and soft, glowing lights illuminated the control panels. David couldn't help but be amazed by the ship, but there was no time for awe. They needed to move fast, as the ship's engines hummed to life. David sat in a seat next to Lily. She was quiet, her hands clasped tightly together in her lap. David reached over and gently placed his hand on hers. You're not alone, Lily, he said softly. I'm here, and I always will be. We'll get through this. Lily nodded, but David could see the uncertainty in her eyes. He could feel her fear, and he knew she was struggling with what had happened to her. But there was nothing more he could say. He could only promise to be there for her, no matter what. The ship soared into the sky, leaving the alien world behind. As they left the planet's atmosphere, David glanced out of the window. The stars seemed so far away, and yet he knew they were only the beginning of what was to come. The Akther were out there, and they would stop at nothing to capture Lily. David turned to Arya. How do we stop them? How do we fight back? Arya's expression was grim. We will need more help. We cannot fight the Akther alone. I will take you to the Zorthian fleet. Together we may have a chance. David nodded. But his thoughts were with Lily. She was still so young, and yet she was at the center of this war. The weight of the galaxy rested on her shoulders, and it was all because of the powers she now possessed, as the ship traveled deeper into space. David held on to the hope that he could protect his daughter. But the journey ahead was filled with unknowns. There would be battles to fight, enemies to face, and choices to be made. But for now they were together, and that was all that mattered. The ship raced through space, its engines roaring as they moved farther from the planet. David sat beside Lily, his eyes fixed on the view ahead. The vastness of space stretched out before them, but it didn't feel as empty anymore. Lily was beside him, and that was all that mattered. But the danger was far from over. Arya had explained that they were heading toward the Zerothian fleet, a powerful force capable of defending them from the Agthor. But even with the fleet's strength, David knew it wouldn't be easy. The Agthor were relentless, and they had no idea what kind of force they would be up against. Lily sat silently beside him, her hands resting in her lap. David could feel her unease, the uncertainty she was carrying. She had been through so much already, and now she was about to face a battle that could change everything. "Are you okay?" David asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily looked at him, her eyes filled with worry. "I don't know, Dad. I'm scared. What if I can't control it? What if I hurt someone again?" David reached out and took her hand in his. "You're not alone, Lily. You've never been alone. Ow. In this together, we'll find a way to stop them." Lily squeezed his hand, but her gaze drifted out of the window. "I don't know if I can do this. I've never fought anyone before. I've never used my powers for anything like this." David could see the fear in her eyes, but he also saw the strength that had been growing in her. She wasn't the same little girl she had been when she disappeared. She had become something more, and though that terrified her, it also made her stronger. "You don't have to be perfect," David said, his voice firm. "You just have to do your best. And I know that's enough. I believe in you, Lily." Lily turned to him, her eyes softening. "Thank you, Dad. I don't know what I'd do without you." The ship's engines suddenly hummed louder, and Arya's voice came over the intercom. "We're approaching the Zerothian fleet. Prepare yourselves. The Agthor won't be far behind." David's heart raced as the ship moved closer to the fleet. He looked out the window again, his eyes scanning the stars. The Zerothian fleet was massive, a fleet of sleek, advanced ships that seemed to shimmer in the darkness of space. It was unlike anything David had ever seen. "We're almost there," Arya said, her voice steady. "Stay alert.
Actor.
Will not hesitate to attack." David nodded, his grip tightening around Lily's hand. They had no choice now. They had to fight. The Agthor were coming, and they would do whatever it took to stop them. As the ship docked with the Zerothian fleet, David and Lily followed Arya down the corridors, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The fleet was alive with activity, soldiers and commanders rushing past them, preparing for the battle ahead. David's mind raced. He had no idea what to expect, but he knew that the Agthor would not go down without a fight. They reached a large command center, where a group of Zerothian officers were already waiting. Arya stepped forward and addressed them in a language David couldn't understand. The officers nodded and gestured toward a large map of the galaxy displayed on the wall. David could see that the Agathar were on the move. They were closing in. Fast. "We need to act quickly," Arya said, turning to David and Lily. "Lily, your powers will be key in this fight. You have the strength to defeat them, but you must focus. You must control your abilities." Lily looked at Arya, her face pale. "I don't know if I can. What if I lose control? What if I hurt someone again?" David placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to offer her comfort. "You can do this, Lily. You've come so far already. I know you can do this." Arya stepped closer, her gaze firm. "We have no time to doubt. The Agthor are here. We fight now, or we lose everything." David felt a surge of fear, but he also felt the weight of his responsibility. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for Lily, for her future, and for the future of the galaxy. "Are you ready, Lily?" David asked, his voice calm but filled with determination. Lily nodded slowly, her eyes focused. "I'm ready." As the Zerothian fleet moved into position, David and Lily joined the rest of the fighters. The battle ahead was unlike anything David had ever imagined. The Agthor ships appeared in the distance, dark and menacing, their weapons charging. "We're outnumbered," one of the Zerothian officers said, his voice tense. But we can still win. We have the element of surprise. Arya nodded. Lily, you are the key. When the battle begins, you must use your powers to strike at the heart of their fleet. Take out their command ship, and the rest of the fleet will crumble. Lily took a deep breath, her hands shaking slightly. She didn't know if she could do this, but she knew she had to try. For her father, for the galaxy. The battle began with a deafening roar as the two fleets clashed in the vastness of space. Explosions lit up the dark sky, and the sound of weapons. Fire filled the air. David's heart pounded as he watched Lily move into position, her body glowing with energy. He knew she had the power to end this, but he also knew that it wasn't going to be easy. Lily closed her eyes, focusing on the power inside her. It was terrifying, but it was also the only way to stop the Agthor. She raised her hand, and a pulse of energy shot out toward the enemy fleet. It struck one of the Agthor ships, causing it to explode in a burst of light. David watched in awe as Lily's powers rippled through the battlefield. The Agthor were strong, but they weren't prepared for the force that Lily now controlled. The tide of the battle was shifting, but just as victory seemed within reach, a massive Agthor ship appeared in front of them. It was larger than anything they had faced before. The command ship, the leader of the Agthor forces. We need to take that ship down, Arya shouted, her voice filled with urgency. Lily nodded, her expression determined. I'll do it. With one final surge of power, Lily unleashed a blast of energy toward the command ship. The ship shook violently, and then, with a deafening roar, exploded. The Agthor fleet faltered, and the remaining ships turned to flee. The battle was won. David felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had done it. They had stopped the Agthor. But as he looked at Lily, he knew their fight wasn't over. There was still so much more to do. We did it, Lily, David said, his voice filled with pride. Lily smiled, but there was a sadness in her eyes. We did. But there's always more to fight for, and I'll be ready for it. David nodded. Whatever the future held, they would face it together, as father and daughter, as a team. The battle was over. The Agthor had been defeated, their fleet scattered across the stars. David could feel the weight of the victory pressing down on him, but he also knew that it was just the beginning. The danger had passed for now, but the universe was vast, and there were always new threats, as the Zorthian fleet began to regroup and repair their ships. David stood beside Lily on the observation deck of their ship. The stars outside seemed peaceful again, but David knew that peace was fragile. There would always be more battles to fight, more enemies to face. But for now, they had time to rest. Lily stood quietly beside him, her eyes focused on the distant stars. Her face was tired, but there was a sense of relief in her expression. The battle had been hard on her. She had been the key to their victory, but she also carried the burden of her powers. Powers that, until recently, she hadn't fully understood. Are you okay? David asked softly, his voice breaking the silence. Lily looked at him, her expression thoughtful. I don't know, Dad. I did what I had to do. But it's hard. I don't feel like the same person anymore. Sometimes I don't even know who I am. David placed a hand on her shoulder, offering her comfort. You're still my daughter, Lily. No matter what powers you have, no matter what happens, you're still the same person inside. Lily smiled. Faintly. I don't feel the same, though. I feel different. But I don't know if that's a bad thing. Maybe it's just to who I'm supposed to be now. David looked out at the stars, his mind wandering. He understood what she meant. Lily had changed, but that didn't make her any less his daughter. She had grown into someone stronger, someone capable of doing incredible things. He was proud of her, even if he didn't fully understand everything she'd become. We've both been through a lot, David said, his voice quiet. But we've made it through. Together, Lily nodded. Together. The silence stretched between them. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was a peaceful silence, the kind that came after the storm had passed. David knew they were both thinking about the future, about what would come next. There were so many unknowns, so many things they still had to figure out. They were together. Oh, that was enough. After a while, Arya entered the room, her face serious, but kind. David, Lily, the fleet is ready to depart. We'll head to a Zorathian stronghold, where we can regroup and plan for the future. We've won the battle, but the war is not over. David turned to her, nodding. I understand. We've won this fight, but there's still so much more to do. Arya looked at Lily, her eyes filled with both admiration and concern. You were incredible in the battle, Lily. You've proven that you can control your powers. But I want you to understand something. Your powers are not just weapons. They're a part of who you are. You must learn to control them, to use them for good. Lily met Arya's gaze, her eyes filled with determination. I will. I don't know how to control all of it yet, but I will learn. I won't let my powers hurt anyone. Arya nodded. That is the first step. Control is key. But you must also understand that there are forces in the galaxy that will seek to use your powers for their own purposes. You will face many challenges ahead, Lily, but you are not alone. We will stand with you. David listened to Arya's words, his heart swelling with pride for his daughter. He knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he also knew that Lily was ready. She had faced the darkness of her powers and come out stronger. She wasn't just his daughter anymore. She was a warrior, a protector of the galaxy. The ship's engines hummed softly as it began to move, leaving the battlefield behind. David stood beside Lily, watching as the stars sped past them. The galaxy was a vast, dangerous place, but for the first time in a long while, David felt a sense of hope. They had fought, and they had won. And now, they had a chance to rebuild. We'll make it through this, David said quietly. No matter what happens, we'll face it together. Lily turned to him, her eyes filled with gratitude. I know. Dad, I know. The journey ahead would be long, and there would be many battles yet to come. But David and Lily were ready. Together, they would face whatever the universe had in store for them. They had already overcome so much, and they knew they could do it again. As the ship sped through the stars, David took one last look at the galaxy outside. It was a place of infinite possibilities of danger and adventure, but it was also a place of hope. And with Lily by his side, he knew that there was nothing they couldn't face. For the first time in years, David felt at peace. The future was uncertain, but as long as they were together, he knew they could handle whatever came next. And as the ship soared deeper into space, David held on to that hope, because for him and Lily, the journey was just beginning.